quarantine starting September 8.
This comes after the health department projected that daily COVID-19 cases in the capital region could hit as high as 43,000 by the end of this month.
What is happening to our country is we're coming through the pandemic of the unvaccinated. That's the real story here in the Philippines. It is the unvaccinated that is flooding our hospitals, that are getting to severe illness, and many of them, quite a high percentage, are dying. So, and this is what we want to protect.
Little more than 15 million Filipinos are fully vaccinated for COVID-19 as Metro Manila is on alert level 4 and hospital occupancy is at near critical levels. With the impending granular lockdowns, how can the already strained healthcare system respond? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to this special edition of The Chiefs. Ako po si Robby Alampay. Kasama po natin Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, good evening. Ami, nakamute ka pa yata. Nakamute ka yata, Ami. No.
Another all-time high.
Oo, tas tamang-tama, all-time high, binaba naman tayo sa GCQ.
Oo nga, pero magkakaroon naman ng granular lockdown. Nakagulo ngayon yung mga community kasi lockdown.
At saka bukod doon, itong alert levels, bukod pa to, di ba? Parang may GCQ tapos may alert level within GCQ.
Yun, so yun yung pilot area ng granular. Ito sa NCR, para daw storm warning, alert level 1 to 4. Medyo malabo pa nga, we're waiting for, although meron nang sinasabi na yung capacities nga, di ba? Alert 1, all industries open, level 2, 50, level 3, 30% yata. And level 4, lahat sarado.
Oh, but I want to qualify that. So yung alert levels na yan, it applies under GCQ or on the granular lockdown system?
Ang pagkaintindi ko, granular, ano bang pagkaintindi mo, Ed? Magulo nga ngayong araw, eh.
Kasi yung alert levels are, well, yung granular kasi are supposed to be for specific targeted communities, like for example, condominium buildings or mga kalsada o kaya kung pumamalasin isang buong barangay. So mahirap naman mag-alert level doon sa isang buong building.
Oo nga, exactly. That's why I was thinking kasi yung alert levels comes with 50% capacity for businesses and so on and so forth. So then I'm wondering, kung isang kalye lang yung pinasara mo, di para pa tayo gumawa ng ano, di ba? But that's what makes me wonder.
Na doon sa kanto, magpi 50% ba siya?
On the other hand, if it does apply to the general community quarantine, then obviously this will sow a lot of questions and confusion again because supposedly nag-ease tayo down to GCQ. That's on, hindi pa pala, that's on 2 days from now, September 8.
Yeah, on Wednesday.
But
and remember, si Harry was saying kasi that, Harry Roque was saying that it's GCQ without heightened restrictions. So the premise there apparently is that it's the general GCQ talaga. As I suppose as defined by the circular issued by IATF in May 2021.
Pero
na maluwag talaga.
Baka wala na
granular, which is really hard lockdown.
Yeah, yun ang talagang hard lockdown in granulars.
Yung thinking naman sa granular lockdown is because pwedeng maraming maliliit na lockdown, but because maliliit, kayang i-handle ng mga barangay officials or even at most ng munisipyo or ng syudad. That's the thinking at least. But then, it also raises the questions of, hindi naman pantay-pantay yung capacity ng mga barangay. Sa totoo lang, even yung mga cities, hindi pantay-pantay. And to your point last week, di ba, Ami, parang yung contact tracing will still have to continue and the different LGUs will still have to share information and we still don't necessarily know how good that system is in contact tracing.
Kulang pa rin nga tayo ng testing, di ba? Sabi ko nga sa China, the lockdowns actually work dahil mass testing sila eh. Saka, madali pati yung contact tracing. Ikaw, may infection ka, dyan muna kayong lahat. Eh ngayon, papayagan daw pati yung mga A4s, para papayagan lumabas na hard lockdown, pero may problema yan. Hindi sila pababalikin during the lockdown. So, paano yun? Saka ang dami nagtatanungan ngayon, mga nakatira sa condominium, ano daw ba gagawin sa granular lockdown? Will the entire building be locked down? Or, di ba sinabi sa atin last year nung taga DILG na baka daw by floor? So,
Pwede rin by floor, oo. Pwede mas focus na ganun eh. I think it depends on ano eh.
kaya ba yun sa condo?
Yun, yun ang tanong. I think in part they're limited to the LGUs eh, kasi the LGUs will be funding at least half of the requirements for the lockdown or for the granular lockdowns. So in large part may LGU decision making doon eh. Bigyan ko lang mo yung alert level 4. I'm reading lang a story from the Inquirer. Alert level 4 means an area has been classified as moderate to critical risk and has a healthcare utilization rate higher than 70%. I think in both cases, ng moderate to critical risk and utilization rate, they have to do with yung availability ng facilities in hospitals. So in that sense, it's not really referring to the granular lockdowns.
It refers to the wider
Wider
geographic
LGU.
jurisdiction, the LGU. Diba? So what does that mean? So yung buong NCR naka GCQ, pero yung city mo pwedeng naka-alert level 4. Ano ba mataas? Mataas yung alert level 4, no?
4.
Naka-alert level 4.
Kasi nasa 70% utilization ka na ng healthcare facilities eh.
Oh, but what does that mean kung in the meantime walang granular lockdown yung barangay mo?
I suppose it means wala. That's what we're waiting for.
Ang dami na natin iniisip ngayon.
That's what we're waiting for.
Pero one thing, I mean, yung on other numbers that we're looking at, yung 95% nagre-recover. No? I know we're all looking at yung tumataas yung total numbers. We're all alarmed. Pero kanina nakita ko rin, 95% now of cases recover. Hopefully that really means, as experts are saying, that kumakagat ang bakuna, so magpabakuna po kayo. So bumaba 5% yung hindi nakaka-recover. Just out of curiosity, I checked it. 1 year ago, yung recovery was only 80%. So tumaas ng 15% talaga yung recovery. If you compare it before the vaccination drive and now, so kahit papano, hopefully that's good news.
Oo, meron
Yeah.
naman. Saka may study ngayon na lumabas, so although it's from China, it's yet to be peer-reviewed, na lumalakas nga daw lalo yung resistensya pag nagbo-booster ng Sinovac. You take 2 doses of Sinovac and you get a booster, lumalakas daw talaga yung resistensya by, I think, nearly 3-fold. Naka-budget na daw yan sa atin, di ba? For 2022 pa nga lang.
But you also have to temper all of that with the statement of Yusek Berhere na yung herd immunity that we earlier pegged at only 70% has now been raised or is being raised to 90% because of the impact, 90% from 70%. That's an increase of what? 20 percentage points. Di ba? That's a result of yung pagbaba ng efficacy ng mga bakuna because of Delta.
Against Delta, yun nga, kaya lalong bibilisan na dapat natin dito sa Metro Manila dahil tayo ngayon yung pilot area ng granular lockdowns eh. So kailangan bilisan nila kung pag-eksperimentuhan tayo dito. But anyway, the business groups are happy with granular lockdowns. So tingnan natin kung ano mangyari.
Oo nga, sabi nila they can work with granular lockdowns, but this does not take away all of the questions we still have. We will get to those questions and we will have some answers, at least as part of the conversation later. We'll just need to take a break. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back. Welcome back, the Chiefs. I'm Robbie Alampay, still with Ami Pamintuan and Ed Lingao. And now joining us, Dr. Maricar Limpin, President of the Philippine College of Physicians. Kilala niyo na po si Dr. Limpin, baka hindi niyo lang namumukaan. Dahil iba ngayon ang, iba ngayon ang, ma'am, talo face mask ko sa face mask niyo. Nasa po ba kayo? Nasa ospital po ba kayo?
Nasa ospital pa ako eh.
Okay. So yun lang yung konteksto niyang high-tech na ano nyo. Okay naman po kayo. Safe naman po kayo.
Okay naman po ako sa ngayon.
Okay. Hindi, ma'am. Ano to? Totoong pangungumusta to. Because as you know, two big stories today. Record high in cases. At the same time, nag-ease tayo ng restrictions. We're headed to GCQ. How are both news items taken at the level of the hospital? How do you perceive it?
Yeah, actually, Robbie, no, to be honest, ang daming doktor na nagtatanong ngayon sa akin, no, na kasi I think the healthcare workers are very apprehensive, no, kasi knowing that magre-relax tayo ng community quarantine measures natin from MECQ to GCQ kasi yun ang lumalabas na balita, no? So, marami ang nagtatanong kung hindi ba daw kami mananawagan ng ECQ o lockdown. Kasi, ang kaso naman natin ay hindi bumababa, no? So, we expect na pag nag-relax ang community quarantine measures natin, definitely, no? Since wala naman tayong pagbabagong ginawa sa contact tracing natin, sa testing natin, sa mga isolation interventions natin, wala tayong ginawa talagang pagbabago. And even the border control, it remains to be the same. So, ang nagiging pagbabago lang will always be yung lockdown o yung ngayon GCQ na. So, definitely, we will expect na mas tataas pa ang number ng kaso ng COVID-19.
Ma'am, ang sinasabi po ninyo, the doctors you have been talking to were actually asking for an upgrade, not a downgrade of the quarantine restrictions. Kasi lumuwag po eh. Pero actually, ang sinasabi po niyo, mas gusto nilang lalo pang higpitan.
Yes, kasi nga GCQ, yun nga naririnig na namin, GCQ. So, natatakot ang mga kasamahan ko na dito sa GCQ kasi talagang puno na kami, no? So, tapos i-GCQ pa natin. So, definitely we can expect further increase, no, in the number of cases. And kung sa ngayon ay nahihirapan na kami, no, sa pagtanggap ng mga pasyente, lalong-lalo na kapag tumaas pa ang kaso natin ng COVID-19.
Well, doctor, ang sabi kasi ng gobyerno, gusto daw nilang subukan yung a different path, which is yung nga granular, very hard lockdowns. You think that's feasible? Saka ngayon nga pala, i-lift na yung mga travel restrictions sa mga bansa na matataas yung Delta cases. So kadagdagan niya na So sa tingin nyo, I think na nakikinig naman kayo sa balita the whole day about the granular lockdowns by street, by sitio, by condominium. You think that will work considering the spread of cases? Dito lang naman daw sa Metro Manila, pilot area daw tayo kasi medyo mataas na vaccination natin, saka medyo bumabagal daw yung attack rate. You think at this point, kaya na nating mag-shift by Wednesday?
Well, number one, no, yung pagbagal ng attack rate natin, hindi kasing laki ng pagbaba ng attack rate nung nakita natin nung mga nakaraan ng ECQ natin, lockdowns natin. So, hindi siya ganoon kalaki ang baba. So, definitely, ngayon na mag-ease up tayo ng community quarantine measures, as I said, no, we can expect an increase in the infectivity rate natin, no? And yung granular lockdown na sinasabi, pag sinabi mo kasing talagang mahigpit yan, so ibig bang sabihin yan ay maglalagay talaga sila ng enough na tao to ensure na walang pwedeng pumasok at lumabas dyan sa mga lugar na yan. So, yun yung isa. Ngayon, paano naman yung mga tao na doon sa sinasabi nila na mag-granular lockdown sila, pero may trabaho na outside of that community? So, paano nila mapipigilan yung mga taong yan na pumasok knowing na syempre kung ako yung worker, no, baka pag hindi ako pumasok mawalan ako ng trabaho, no? So yun yung mga magiging problema. At saka kung hindi rin ako papasok, sino magbibigay sa akin ng ayuda doon sa mga granular lockdowns na yan? So napakahirap, ano? And then we are looking into sinasabing mataas na ang vaccination rate natin dito sa NCR. Gaano ba kataas yung sinasabi na vaccination rate? So from some of the things na narinig ko, they are only referring to sa small na LGUs. Like let us say San Juan. San Juan is not really as big and as heavily populated as Manila. So we cannot actually say na mataas na talaga ang vaccination rate natin. And considering na marami din pumupunta na dito sa Manila na coming from outside of NCR. So paano gagawin doon? Hindi naman maganda ang border control natin dito sa NCR. So we can expect really mas tataas pa ang kaso ng COVID-19.
Ang sabi po nila kasi, ang sabi ng otoridad sa granular lockdowns walang labas-masok na mga trabahador. Kumbaga hatian na lang ng LGU at ng national government yung pagbibigay ng ayuda. So the assumption is may ayuda nga ibibigay. How much we're not really sure.
Yeah, so may ayudang ibibigay. Okay, so given na may ayuda, pero yung ayuda ba na yun ay forever? Like let us say kung mawalan ng trabaho yung tao kasi dahil definitely yung hindi nakapasok, no? Masisiguro ba nila na hindi mawawalan ng trabaho ang mga tao? Kung nawalan ng trabaho ang mga tao, will they be able to provide the necessary financial assistance habang walang trabaho yung taong yon?
Ma'am, in the meantime, sa kabilang banda nito, syempre, ang binabantayan natin, as you said, yung hospitals, no? And we're seeing utilization rates both in ICU and also in wards at 75%, 76%, talagang napakataas na. Now, before that, and continuing message, one of the things that hospitals kept saying was, know the situation, kung hindi kayo kailangan mag-ospital, wag muna kayo mag-ospital, let's start the triage at home, and save the hospitals for Now, that message went out for weeks. Matagal na matagal. Kumakagat po ba yung mensahe na yon sa mga nakikita nyo ngayon sa mga ospital?
Well, yung iba naman ay meron namang hindi agad-agad pumupunta sa mga hospitals. In fact, ang dami kaming kunyari, I for one, marami akong na-receive na parang consultation na siya, teleconsultation na siya lumalabas. Nagtatanong ko ano ang gagawin nila. But ang problem, karamihan sa kanila, bumibili na sila ng pulse oximeter para malaman nila yung oxygenation. So, maraming beses sasabihin na nila, nahirapan na akong huminga, doktora, ano ang gagawin ko? Siyempre, pag nagreklamo na ng nahirapan huminga, ang unang-unang sasabihin namin, pumunta na ho kayo sa pinakamalapit na ospital. Ang problema nga nila, doktora, walang bakante na ospital dito sa lugar ho namin. So definitely, dadating yan dito sa ospital na kung saan naroroon ako. Kasi at least doon sa ospital na naroroon ako, I can actually coordinate with the hospital. Pero ang magiging problema, kung puno rin kami. So, madalas naman puno din kami, So, ang sasabihin ko, basta kung pumunta na lang kayo sa emergency room, gagamutin naman namin kayo, pero hindi po ako makakapangako sa inyo na maa-admit kayo. Kasi really, it takes a lot of time before they are admitted to any of the wards or ICU.
Ang problema, madami yung report na nangyayari na to simula pa ng umpisa. Yung cytokine storm, di ba? It happens very, very quickly. Kahit yung mga asymptomatic, mild na mild, tapos bigla-bigla na lang, naku, hirap na ako makahinga. And then in 2 or 3 days, you're dead. Di ba? Ang dami ng ganong story, kaya natatakot ngayon ng mga tao. Kahit yung mag-home isolation, they worry about
Yes, right.
At what point kaya, ano kayang pwedeng gawin ng mga tao pag Especially with Delta, dumadami yung ganyang cases.
Yes, yun nga ang napapansin namin ngayon na which is quite different from yung stories ng COVID-19 nitong nakaraan lang, March of this year, no. Nung March, just to para lang masabi lang natin yung difference. Nung March and April, no, yung second surge natin, yung dumadating on the second week, medyo nagkakaroon ng improvement, and then pagdating ng third week, nagde-deteriorate. So medyo mahaba, no? Yeah, so gumaganda, which is ang doon sa last year, pag gumanda na, ina-expect na namin, tuloy-tuloy na yan, gaganda. But nung second surge, it's not that way. So hindi necessarily na pag gumanda, talaga maganda na. So nagde-deteriorate. And that is actually a phenomenon that was also seen in the other countries at that time. Pero ngayon, nakita namin big difference. Dumadating yung mga pasyente, mabilis. Critical, talagang kadalasan severe na sila, tapos nangangailangan talaga ng ICU at ma-intubate na namin, kakailanganin ng respirator. So, and so far, actually, yun nga napag-uusapan namin ngayon dito, ang dami namin talaga na mortality. Medyo mataas ang mortality ngayon compared doon sa previous na surge natin.
Ma'am, yung concerns po na nilabas niyo about the downgrading to GCQ na tataas pa yung bilang ng mga ma-infect ng COVID. Well, I'm looking at the numbers right now for NCR. Sa utilization rate, we're at 73% sa ICU beds, 63% sa isolation beds, 74% sa ward beds. That's relatively high.
Yeah.
How high do you project it to get? And napaalam ho ba ninyo formally dun sa IATF yung inyong mga concerns bago nila mapag-decision ng GCQ?
Di ba nung last week nagkaroon din kami ng press conference, no? And we already said na ang mga hospitals natin are being overwhelmed, no? Overwhelmed simply because ang daming kaso ng mga COVID-19. But I think they're still looking at the numbers like the 70% for them. And meron pang beds, no? But usually may konti pa, no? Pero sa amin kasi, pag sinabi mong 70%, that is almost equivalent to really having all the beds occupied, no? So, iba kasi yung pananaw namin pag dating sa In fact, ang 80%, no, yung sinasabi na usual, no, pinakamataas na nare-report ng mga hospital is 80% capacity. But that 80% means lahat na ng beds, no, and even more are occupied.
Ma'am, maybe you can explain that. Bakit po ganun? Kung 70 to 80% in effect on the ground, it's already 100% occupied. Why the disparity? What does that mean po?
I think it's a disparity as to how the reporting is being done. Kaya nga, minsan nag-uusap-usap kami, i-report na ninyo yung tunay kasi pag hindi natin ni-report yung tunay, so hindi yan aabot sa ating gobyerno, and therefore they will not really be able to know na yung 70% pala na yon, ang ibig sabihin nun 100% capacity. And then sometimes, alam mo, hindi ko rin alam kung ano ba ang konsiderasyon nila doon sa 70%. Kasi ang feeling din namin, baka binibilang din nila yung mga hospitals na ang mga ospital ay hindi talaga na pupunuan yung beds nila simply because they are hospitals na hindi tumitingin ng COVID-19 cases, no? Example, mental hospital, orthopedic hospital, nobody will go there kung ikaw may nararamdaman na simptomas ng COVID. Kasi alam mo na hindi yun ang hospital na dapat kong puntahan.
Artificial po yung numbers.
Artificial ang numbers.
Which means it's still artificially low. Okay.
Yes, which will actually connote that the bed capacity is
more
low. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am, let me get again to yung moral, no? Kasi last week we were seeing scenes of frontliners na hindi naman nagsa-strike pero nagpo-protest, no? And we have to say wala namang pinaralisa na na services, the frontliners made sure, but they also made sure to send the message, no, na napapagod na talaga sila. Now, between the last time that the frontliners called for a timeout to these scenes that we're seeing these past days, na outright nagpo-protesta, and all, with including talks from some corners na kailangan mag-strike and so on, where is the morale of our frontliners right now?
Many of the healthcare workers feel that we are actually being neglected, no? Primarily because yung mga marami sa mga kasamahan namin hindi nabibigay yung mga benepisyo nila. So I think as far as the morale is concerned, lalong-lalo na siguro doon sa medyo maliliit na ospital, no, sila yung hindi nabibigyan ng benepisyo, medyo mababa yung morale nila, no. And to think na supposedly kami yung sinasabi nila na heroes, no, pero hindi naman namin nararamdaman na heroes kami, no. So I think naghihintay pa sila na we have to beg, no, and yun nga yung sinasabi ko matagal na, they should not wait for us to beg, no. Kawawa naman ho kami kasi ginagawa na namin ang trabaho namin, pagod na kami. Ako nga hanggang ngayon nandito pa ako sa ospital, no. So hirap na, talagang medyo mahirap at mabigat na ang aming kalooban. Mabigat ang kalooban namin kasi marami sa mga pasyente ang hindi man lamang namin yung kailangan tanggihan namin kasi wala nang beds dito sa ospital, ano, and then some of them really dies, no. And marami din kaming kasamahan na sa ngayon ay may COVID-19, no. So you know, Robbie, it's not just yung moral na bumababa, kung hindi there is also that fear among us, no, particularly itong Delta variant, no, dahil nakita namin mukhang talagang it's not just highly transmissible, but it seems to be more virulent than the other COVID variants na meron tayo.
At naniniwala nga kayo that the cases will go higher. You have channels with the government, no? Are you planning to appeal the move to GCQ? May isang araw pa eh. So,
yes, actually yan ngayon ang ano ko, I'm going to call my colleagues, no, kasi I think that we need to really reach out to maybe the president, no, and even to the OH na sana reconsider yung decision nila to relax more the community quarantine that we have.
pero hihingin nyo ho na kung maari nga ECQ. Ibalik sa ECQ, ganun ba yung hihingin nyo?
Actually, at the very least, at least i-maintain ang MECQ. But yung talaga MECQ, ha? Yung MECQ, hindi yung...
Gaano katagal yung MECQ kung i-maintain?
Siguro tignan natin mga 2 weeks uli. And then we will try to see kung ano ang effect nung 2 weeks na yan.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Maricar Limpin, President of the Philippine College of Physicians, maraming salamat po.
Thank you,
Ingat
Doctor.
po.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone.
And we'll continue our conversation right now. Joining us, Health Undersecretary Leopoldo Vega. He is head of the One Hospital Command Center. Good evening, Yusek.
Good evening, Robbie, and good evening to all, to Ami and
Hi, sir.
yes, to everybody here, and Ed.
Nga pa. Undersecretary Vega, obviously two things on the lips of Filipinos today. Balik sa GCQ. They have an idea
Right.
what GCQ is. Then granular lockdown, lalong pinapaigting yung usapan sa granular lockdown. But actually, may isa pang term na pumasok ngayon. We just want to clarify because yung alert levels. No? So may alert levels then, 1, 2, 3, 4. So first, we just wanted to clarify, yung alert levels 1 to 4, does this apply under the regime of GCQ or under the regime of granular lockdown?
Good evening to all once again. Let me put it this way. When you say GCQ with heightened restrictions, if you take a look at it technically, the provisions there are mostly similar, very similar to an MECQ. In other words, the MECQ that we had last year was totally different with the MECQ right now. It's really a hybrid. And this GCQ that we have is with heightened restrictions, carrying some of the provisions of ECQ, wherein there would be bans for some indoor dining, or there's a number of people that can go to churches, so on and so forth. So in other words, technically it's almost the same. But when you say granular lockdown, it means that this strategy has focused into something very targeted. Very targeted in a sense that since the Delta virus or the coronavirus appears in clusters now, in households, in communities, it is best to target them and do a hard lockdown on a granular setting.
Okay.
In other words, a very focused setting. So when you say level 1 to level 4, it means that when you're a level 1 kind of granular lockdown, you're a low risk. In other words, your business can open. You can actually balance your business there and the mobility of people around. And when you say level 4, that's when it's really highly restrictive. It's a hard lockdown, meaning to say that the prevalence of COVID is very high, and it means that the local government unit or unit takes over in terms of this hard lockdown.
Okay, so let's try to paint, gawa tayo ng scenario para maybe we can illustrate it from the level of the household. Let's say, sa kalye namin, sa purok namin, yung granular lockdown mag-uumpisa sa kalye namin. No? And then sa kalye namin may mga sari-sari store, doon sa kanto may maliit na pabrika, and so on, pero lahat yan nasa isang kalye. And let's say that's alert level 2, granular lockdown sa purok namin. Let's say, taga Quezon City ako, ang opisina ko is sa Makati. What can I expect in the morning?
Well, when you say a level 2, that probably is not still in a low risk position compared with the level 4, meaning to say that it is not a hard lockdown. People can still move about, but what is very important is that the BHERTs or the Barangay Health Emergency Unit must be able to monitor those residents who were contact traced from a positive or an index case. So in other words, there's a balance between monitoring and of course in enforcing the standards of the lockdown with the economy.
Yusek, we just talked to Dr. Limpin of the Philippine College of Physicians at nag-aalala nga daw sila dyan sa shift to GCQ with COVID cases rising to a record high today at mukhang balak daw nila mag-appeal sa government. And then we also talked about hospital capacity na although the Department of Health also said you will be reconciling your figures with their figures, diba, with the doctors. Ano ba sa tingin nyo ang sitwasyon talaga sa hospital capacity in the NCR muna? Sige, NCR kasi tayo
NCR, yeah, actually, ang NCR natin, pero let me put it this way po, Mamami. In terms of the lockdown we're looking at, especially with this granular lockdown, and the timing of it, no, especially with the GCQ, I mean, it really catches the issue because we are now on a peak of 22,000 with about 6,000 in Metro Manila, and there is a sudden shift towards a GCQ. But the thing is, the strategy of implementing testing, tracing, and of course isolation, and the vaccination and the treatment, it's still there. It's still the same basic strategy. Nothing really has changed. It's just that we actually adopted a mechanism or a strategy wherein we have to learn to live with the virus. In other words, if we have to put ourselves in a zero COVID strategy, it won't guarantee that there will be no COVID new cases. And we have seen this last year and for this year, wherein we tried to do as much as ECQ, but still the COVID cases kept on coming. And they are now trying to look at this from the strategic point that if we do something which is really granular and lacking or targeting this kind of lockdowns, pretty sure that we could have a very good balance between moving up our economy and definitely also of putting the necessary public health intervention.
Yusek, pero nga yun nga daw ang problema na wala naman daw corresponding increase in capacity, especially in testing and contact tracing. So dyan mga kalugar na ilalagay yung granular lockdown, i-intensify ba yung capabilities na yan?
It should be. I mean, the implementation of the granular lockdown is this is going to be the very issue, because in implementing and the execution of this, the local government unit has to be very strict and with certain rules, because this is the only way that we can keep the transmission low. But in terms of the healthcare capacity, you ask here in Metro Manila, the Metro Manila area, as we see right now, the HCUR, the total collective HCUR, is in the threshold of a high-risk position. And the ICU is already on the high-risk category, meaning to say that a lot of this COVID-dedicated beds and even the ICU are getting to be filled up. Now, one of the reasons for this is that even if you have 6,000 new cases per day here in Metro Manila, we were able to handle almost 10,000 during the last waves before in Metro Manila. But this time it's different, because in Region 3 and Region 4A, you have high risk or critical risk positions for the allocated beds and the intensive care unit. And there's actually coordinated transfer and referrals down in the NCR. So that makes the NCR a bit more, in a way, saturated in terms of the number of HCUR. But what we are saying right now is that the number of mild and asymptomatic cases, if we even take a look at the stats for this, it is roughly about 97%. So in other words, if you have more of this and you have about 2% of moderate and about 1.8% of the critical and severe, this is totally different from what we saw the last wave that we had, wherein the critical and severe was at 4%. And I think this is one of the reasons also that the ramping up of the vaccination and probably a better kind of community quarantine that we had in the past few weeks, we were able to come up with a situation wherein there is less severe and critical patients compared with last. So I think there are many factors that can be attributed to this.
Pero sir, clearly some doctors groups, including that of Dr. Limpin in Philippine College of Physicians, they don't appear to share your confidence as far as yung healthcare capacity is concerned, and yung the ability to head off another surge. Kasi for example, I was reading to her kanina the numbers ng occupancy this today. Sa NCR, 73% for ICU beds, 74% sa ward beds, and so on down the line. Ang sabi niya, that's not really accurate. Ang sabi ni Dr. Limpin, ang sabi niya, it's really approaching 100%. It's artificially low, not necessarily through any fault of the DOH, pero baka sa reporting ng hospitals themselves. She also pointed out na baka naka-factor in din dito yung ibang mga hospital that don't really accept COVID patients, like the mental hospital, and
National
Orthopedic Hospital. So may mga ganong factors daw po that are not really reflected in the numbers. That's why they are not that confident daw.
Yeah, right. Pero itong DOH data tracker namin, these are actually encoded by the data managers of the different hospitals. And what they encode really are the allocated beds for COVID. Hindi yung mga non-COVID. We don't consider that. In fact, the data encoding is really on time. We see this on the dashboard. And Robbie, I have to tell you that we have transformed the National Mental Hospital into a COVID facility. There are 100 beds right now there for COVID, for mild and moderate. They've been accepting not just mental patients, but rather general patients. So we can actually decongest some of the hospitals, and we're putting them there in the National Mental, because we have built a new pavilion just for repurposed for this situation. And we're also opening up on September 15 another 120 beds for moderate and severe in national and mental. This is a modular hospital. So what we're saying is that from the time that we started last year, we only had 730 ICU beds for COVID. January, we had almost 7 that. Now we have doubled this. We have almost 1,496. Now we're continually making sure that we need to put up this necessary infrastructure because that's our weakness.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look at this with the density of the people around and the number of intensive care units that we have. It cannot accommodate a pandemic like this. So that is why we just don't allocate beds in the hospitals, but also build. And we've been building modular hospitals ever since to make sure that we can capacitate the hospitals during this pandemic.
But speaking of capacitate, sir, is the manpower, is the human resource keeping up with that built new capacity? Because I mean, you yourself made that distinction and explained to us the difference between capacity and capability. And capability being, the difference being that yung actual human resource needed to do that. I mean, might it be that these different perceptions on how full the capacity is still attributable to manpower problems?
Yeah, Robbie, the manpower problem is it's really an issue. I mean, but we were able to hire 10,150 since January to make sure that we are able to augment the different hospitals that need it. But this is across the country. And we are still continuing trying to hire, especially with the new open, the modular hospitals in Lung Center. They're going to open up another 40 beds right now, which is can cater to moderate and severe. And in Las Piñas General Hospital, they're going to open up 22. But there is really the issue of manpower, but we need to be very aggressive in recruitment. There are really people who can actually work for these institutions, but you have to find for them.
Yusek, how's the step-down policy coming along? Because Dr. Limpin also said, well, they noticed na from the second surge in the summer, saka etong surge na to compared to last year, instead of improving, maraming kaso na at the end of 2 weeks, they actually worsen eh. Di ba? You get pneumonia, you get COVID pneumonia, you get the cytokine storm, and then suddenly you're dead. Kumakaya pa, nahihirapan ba kayo? I mean, are you still implementing the step-down policy? And
Yeah, but Ma'am Abby, the step-down policy is really all about recuperating. In other words, you will only be put in a step-down facility, and this will be recognized and accredited by the Department of Health as a continuing care of one hospital to the other. So in other words, if your step-down facility is a hotel or a TTMF, just like Tondo Medical Center's TTMF in PICC as a step-down care, they have to be very sure that once you step down, you are recuperating and you're about to be discharged. But the care is continuing. In other words, the medicines that and the care that you will have will be the same all throughout until you are discharged. But the step-down care for intensive care units, that's different because if you step down from an intensive care unit, you need another intermediate kind of intensive care unit. In other words, that's a step down. And some of the hospitals have used some of the rooms and some of their wards as a step down from the intensive care unit because they know that this intensive care unit step down care would add more, not just gadgets, but also resources in terms of manpower. So it has to be well planned in terms of step down care coming from the intensive care units.
Okay. Undersecretary Leopoldo Vega, he is head of the One Hospital Command Center. Sir, maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat and thank you po.
thank you, Yusek.
And that's all for this special edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to everyone, mask on, wash hands, stay safe, get vaccinated. Philippines, I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.